With his life on the line in the first Pro Circuit Cup, a pro pulled off a comp no one was expecting. My name is Boris, and today we'll be looking at the Vanguard Diana board. First, quick look at a comp, then a VOD review of the game I'm mentioning. There are certain conditions we must fulfill to play this comp, the first one of them being having a Vanguard emblem. This is best achieved through having Frontline Foundation start, as it has the potential for you to tempo and give you a Leona. Then we're looking for Arbiter. The Arbiter prio we will be looking at is at 3 attacks every 4 seconds and then 10 instances of damage and gaining permanent HP. Resistances is fine, but permanent HP is going to be better in the long run, providing you with extra tankiness, and you ideally have this Arbiter already stacking from 2-1. However, we have a couple of variations, and one of them is this classic from BBE by playing around Aurora as your duo carry. There we can also go for a 300 anima cash out, spiking on 3-5, which requires us to have anima by 2-1 or 2-2. Best spot to play this from would be a net tempo spot around the Diana, already slapping that Vanguard emblem on, and then we're also fine to be playing for the Misfortune variation. Whichever variation you end up going into is mostly going to depend on whether you have an extra pair of AP items or you have those AD items and what units you hit. Either variation is going to perform very similarly, but it's going to cap out a little bit differently. For that Aurora variation, we are going to be then tucking in LeBlanc, which can be a secondary carry as well if you're unable to make it to that Leona 3. Just make sure you have another Rageblade for that. And then tacking in a Karma on level 9 for that extra Voyager. Whereas for the Misfortune variation, we're capping around 6 Vanguard and Shepherds through a Soda. And Blitzcrank, this is going to have a little bit of a higher cap, but since we're playing a 3-cost reroll, this comp is going to be very expensive and hard to get to. Therefore, picking up as Econ Augment as your second option is quite good. On the augments front, otherwise, item augments are great since you want to be itemizing obviously your 3 stars. Otherwise, on the combats front, Twin Guardians, especially with a Stoneplate on your tank, opens a possibility to make this Diana even tankier. Otherwise, anything that buffs up your frontline, something like Boxing Lessons that synergizes neatly with these Vanguards, other form of resistances, something like a lineup, or backloaded augments, something like a Baron's Lair, can be quite strong. If you happen to also hit the anima cash out giving Jinx, you can also play around Jinx duo carry. If you find a lot of copies of Zoe, you can also maneuver these boards a little bit to be playing around the Zoe carry as well. Other emblems to note in the comp would be obviously the Voyager emblem is going to become a free +1 for yourself. You can even buff up that Diana and your frontline tank, and the Challenger emblem is going to be the next one you can be looking at picking up, but I would not be investing in more into emblem augments. I would be looking at other form of generic item components or econ all the way throughout. Regarding our itemization, with that Vanguard emblem, we're pairing Diana with a Rageblade and Titans, and there are also some builds where you can swap out that Rageblade for a BT, making that Diana very durable, as if you're playing around Misfortune, she loves that Rageblade as well. Generally going to want that IE first as a crit item, and then any form of an AD item you can spare. Giant Slayer, Deadblade, Kraken, Striker's Flail is all quite good. Whereas for Aurora, you're having the general caster items, Jeweled Gauntlet with either double Nashers or a Shojin, and then holding some form of a utility. Spark on your tank, which is going to be the Ilaoi 3, or if you're able to find yourself to a Leona 3 somehow, if there are no reroll the Leonas, but other 1-cost rerollers, is going to be quite strong right there. And just having some generic tank items. Bramble is quite good in the current meta, which can be slopped in Declaw in other metas. Warmogs is still quite strong on these Vanguard units, having that extra HP to benefit from their shields. Or Protector's Vow is also great to have that extra cast coming out first. On the artifacts front, Seeker's Arm Guard can be substitute for that Titans, providing extra durability for Diana. Wit's End has also seen good success on her, same goes for Flicker Blades replacing that Rage Blade. Whereas for anima weapons, we're looking then primarily obviously at the Aurora carry, with Shearing Shortbow and Annihilator being the best ones. Guiding Hex is commonly played, seems to be a little bit less in the value, but we have to see as the data sample size is not that great. Whereas for the Yana, Cyclonic Slicers, but it's going to be hard to fit in, so I would stay away from that for now. For our Gods front, since we're playing a reroll comp, Varus is going to be amazing. Ari can bridge some of that econ gap. Yasuo has some nasty interactions with hexes. You can get even more permanent HP. Have that anti-heal sorted out for yourselves. And the mana hex on Diana is not that bad either. and Kale can help you a little bit more on that items front. As usual, this cheat sheet is going to be available in the link down below along the meta sheet where I have all these cheat sheets listed out. They're also available on my X if you want to grab them one by one. And now, let's jump in a VOD review from the Pro Circuit Stargazer Cup. For our VOD review, we are jumping in game with Keiser from day one of the Pro Circuit Cup, the first cup, the Stargazer Cup. Now, his VOD is at 720p, so cannot up the quality, but should nonetheless be sufficient for us to learn from. Starting out with that Primordian duo right here already and holding on to those time breakers, but I already see that the Go Buster right here has the Belveth, which is going to be the prime way you get into this line, or simply print extra a little bit of econ right away. Do we get potential? Hopes to immediately not play around this Poppy and Veigar option. I believe with a Stoneblade Slam, it's alright. Otherwise, the line succeeds when you have the potential to slam items and tempo hard, and then generally push either for that Veigar print, or if you see a lot of 1-cost rerollers, play for that reroll spot right there. But we just got an orb incoming with a Lowy and a Diana and picked up that Jinx from our shop, which completes Anima for us if we want to go, but still have to be wary if there are going to be any players playing open. For our open selection booster pack, generally a weak econ option, especially in a gold start like this. Since we only have 2 components, we've got a little bit of extra gold through the units. Treasure Hunt should be treated as a item augment. You obviously have to reroll, then you're going to proc your chest and get your items. But for these 3-cost rerolls, you can have a little bit of delayed value. It's a lot better in these 1-cost and 2-cost rerolls when you're going to be able to proc this on stage 3. Otherwise, going into stage 4, and since how expensive this is, it's hard to proc for 3-cost rerolls, and things like Prismatic Ticket or any form of free rerolls won't count. Mace's Will here would be a tempo option. Now, we would not have exactly anything to complete with this glove right now. Would be a QSS and play into some kind of Master Yi if you were to go for that kind of option, but our board is not that strong to be exactly playing into it. Do get off that, I believe this is the frontline blueprint right here. That's going to help us establish our direction right away. We could be playing for bodyguard training. Can't recall last time I've seen anyone seriously click this thing. Simply undervalued due to the many nerfs it has received. And no, this is the frontline foundation, I think. This is the backline foundation. This should be the frontline foundation. Backline foundation offering us possibilities of Voyager, Challenger, Rogue, Marauder, and there was one more emblem. Now, with a Challenger emblem, it's a little bit tricky. However, other emblems have their own lines so you can play it, but Frontline Foundation, generally stronger option, also has the potential for a stronger board, and we get that Vanguard emblem right away. We get Leona and we're checking our options. I'm unable to exactly translate this, but I'm pretty sure this is every 4 seconds right there. This should be something like a combat start, and if you reroll your previous combat, one of those, and our options would be gaining permanent HP, I believe. Yeah, permanent HP, shield, and a chance, I believe, at re-rolls, and he's going to be going immediately with that permanent HP spot, as we know what the comp we're looking at, and he seems to be already knowing what he wants to do in this kind of a spot, so definitely has put in his prep, slamming that Vanguard emblem onto Diana, getting the 3 Arbiter in immediately through the Zoe, so we're going to be hopefully able to giga stack right away, queuing into No Scout, now Pivot, Veigar, Lissandra board. Going to see how that player performs. It's a comp that you don't get to see often enough either. And regarding his position in the tournament right now, he had a rough string of first 3 games. This is game 4, so he definitely is looking for a good placement. And sometimes people would be wary to pull out this kind of attack in these kind of spots, since they're not. It's hard to have been tested. I don't know. I haven't followed the scrims, but sometimes it's hard to gauge how high this comp can place in the top tier competition. But he seems to be confident in that this is going to allow him to net these points that he needs and advance to day 2. Otherwise, we're holding onto these Vanguard units right now at not at the cost econ, but we have slotted in Lulu. I did not catch what the Stargazer constellation was. Perhaps it's the Medallion one. In that option, we have a potential for another econ source, since Lulu can't print a little bit of extra gold even without the Medallion in right away whenever she casts 6 times. Plus, we're probably recognizing that our front line is strong enough, and we just simply want a little bit of an extra Econ immediately snap picks the Yasuo Hex. So we can see a lot of players on these 3-cost heroes would default more towards the Econ option, but we see a bow here. I believe that was the decider, and plus even more HP. If we're able to secure that Leona, 3 is going to be very, very tanky, being one of the prime tanks in the meta, and we have 5 copies on there. And I believe that I haven't yet seen if there was a team or reroll player. If there's not, we definitely should be in the prime spot to be securing this Leona right there. Slotting in the challenger right now, and putting that Leona permanent HP hex on the Leona right there, and going for this kind of positioning so that she's fully escapes the value of the stone plate. And generally people do not want to be committing, especially in the early game, their hexes to the very edges. Putting them in one of the off-center ones by one is generally quite safe. And in the late game, if you get something like a cryogenic hex and you have locked in your backline position through one of the backline hexes, then you are more fine to be slotting in here. Otherwise, you open yourself up for potential of wraps, especially with things like Master Yi being prominent in the meta. We have managed to save quite a lot of HP to playing this without even leveling. Unfortunately, our streak got broken here, but able to pick up a free win here against the Calclos player. That's, well, obviously we had the Giga Juice spot onto one where we opted to not want to go for a loss streak, wanting to always try to scale and extend these fights with permanent HP buff. Ideally, they had dragged on a little bit longer for us, but we're going to take wins nonetheless. And that's why we didn't go for that anima play right now. So I would imagine we might be perhaps leading a little more into the MF variant, but we would have to see what emblems, what items we get dropped, right? If you get a lot of AP items, then it's more of a no-brainer to go into that Aurora line. Also, Aurora is going to benefit from the shred you have, not requiring some form of a Sunder for the MF. So simply fits in a little bit nicer that way, and you can play it without Anima Cash Out. Anima Cash Out is a little bit of extra juice in for those lost streak spots. Generally, I would say that the items dictate it, and then obviously what units you hit if you are not on the item count by the time you are rolling down. Should be, yeah, the no scout, no pivot player here, rolled quite deep and hasn't hit that much. So again, we're picking up a free win. So our strategy here is obviously going to be making this Leona quite tanky, investing our items into that so that we can hopefully keep stacking that max HP for our next augment selection right here. Trifecta. I'm not too excited. I would be looking here for some form of an econ and care package. Is that what is offered to us? It's a hybrid augment between items and econ, and we definitely can like that. Has the potential for the dupes, which can have immense value. Trifecta, combat augment, a little bit low in the stats with the upkeep tempo. For example, compared to something like the Legion of Trees, that comes with an emblem and gives not exactly obviously the same buff, but a little bit lower value, but still is going to bridge the gap with that emblem. Pandora's items would be decent in this kind of a comp, but we have already 2 free bows and we have 2 reforgers. We should be hopefully hitting our items. Therefore, since we are in such a need of an econ, we're just ripping that. Same goes for replication. Do not want to be committing to the items. Since we have not that many duplicate components, I believe the ones you could make use of are chains and rods. But we want econ here, and bronze for life just does not fit this comp. Rule of thumb, play bronze for life in comps that can utilize Rast. So we go with this Titan Slam here and keep the open bow, which I would imagine becomes a Rage Blade. And let's see how we perform here against this Jax. This Diana has surprisingly even quite strong. The thing is, with these 3-cost units, a lot of players have the read that they cannot perform that much unless you're able to invest items, but you can see this Leona is just absolute monster of a unit, able to stall long enough for this Diana to simply stack up her titans and be able to clean up from this nice positioning and able to get into the backline there. Have an option to be going for Karma, but we find that MF here, and he seems to immediately be committing to this MF board with the 6 Vanguard right there. Perhaps 1 unit is enough for him to be committing. That should be enough, and this seems to be more playing likely into some form of a Lululi board reroll right there. But their emblems are Psionic and Timebreaker. Timebreaker emblem obviously fits into that comp. Psionic, the emblem has great stats. I believe it's one of the most overstated emblems on its own, so you can just utilize that as an item for our next god selection here. Gaining max interest here could be appealing, but he seems to be already hovering this hex, which is... I'm not. Is this the anti-heal hex? could be. If that's so, then that is immense value. Has that an item sorted for ourselves. And even though we're not playing an AP carry, it should be quite of a value. Let's see when he slams. It should be able to confirm what kind of hex it is. Picked up a tier that can just become also a Shojin some sort, or just another tank item. Protector's Vow, great tank item. And yes, that is the anti-heal hex right there. So going to be sorting that out. This is why Yasuo is quite nice. Can sometimes bridge the gap for you for those items. And again, we were able to stake down this Briar Tree, but simply has too much tempo from the Go Buster spot right there, so going to pick up a loss. But we're in a prime spot. We're going to be entering stage 3 with at least 75 HP about. And that is amazing for these 3-cost rerolls. Generally, especially if you're playing something that's not that much in the meta, is going to be struggling in stage 4 with only 2 stars. You want to have this HP buffer so you can reach, hopefully hit by the end of stage 4. And then since you have so much of a unit value, obviously 3 costs 3 stars, 27 gold invested should be quite strong. And there you're able to start picking up rounds, but obviously again do not want to be hitting on life as the potential, especially in this current meta, for some Exodia to spawn it is quite great. Rolling down here, have managed to pick up a Diana pair and upgrade our MF right there. And let's see how we're going to be approaching our itemization here. We opted to commit to this MF before seeing our items. And we do get dropped we get more items from it. So double stone plate here is quite nice for this Leona. Going to be digging a little bit deeper, able to fully upgrade our unit, so it should be fine to stop here. Going for a few reforges, utilizing our reforges aggressively here. Get that Rage Blade, get that IE slammed, and have an open bow. This can become another Rage Blade perhaps, since the MF in the Challenger form likes the Rage Blade, has that little bit, if I recall correctly, had some attack speed scaling in there. Otherwise, GS is also quite fine of an item to be going for. We still have a couple of the Forgers. For our next item, augment selection, we saw Swordsman here, one of the top items in the meta. Immediately, obviously, real explosive growth, not pushing levels. Little buddies, not for this comp. Hasn't seen that much value out, even though we are more back in the standard unit meta. Simply seems to have been outscaled and got quite a few nerfs. Glass Cannon is an interesting option, but requires the position a little bit funkily in a way to get this Diana in a safe position. But I believe Swordsmith here could be amazing. You have my bow. This 12 attack speed generally does not bitch grab. This would be, funnily enough, the lower breakpoints of attack speed are more useful for units that do not have attack speed. When you have these Rage Blade scalers and such, you're going to be getting your attack speed there, and therefore there's a little bit of an anti-synergy if you go and dig into the math of this. But since it's only one component, a little bit of attack speed buff generally, and not as strong of an augment. Since our care package has not offered us a econ yet, and we're only 50 gold, and we're only sitting on these 2 stars right now, so booster pack, yeah, we're going to be ripping the booster pack. Simply gives us the econ. Wait, did we get dropped I think it was Diana too that we simply got dropped from the booster pack, so that's absolutely insane for our spot. And we were able to immediately hit the double Diana shop and hit our Diana tree, so this is going to make us extremely stable. Especially if we're able to find this single Leona, but we can already see he's pumping the levels to start pushing levels, saying this is sufficient. I do not need to be sitting here chasing this MF. The Leona tree hopefully will come. There are some 1-cost reroll players in the lobby, and as long as they remain alive, I will have improve odds, even though our obviously shop odds for 1-cost are decreasing. And we can see this Diana is clearing up quite well. Still a close fight against this Lulu boar, but nonetheless able to go there. And this is a great read here to be pushing tempo. If we're able to reach a higher cap, we actually have a potential to play for a high placement, not something only like a top 4. Amazing spot for himself. And speaking of why the Vanguard emblem is so good onto this Diana right here, is that simply she is going to be providing that AP for her, right? The Vanguard emblem, every time there's a shield pop, they gain AD and AP, the holder that is, and providing that durability that BT would offer. And I believe it throughout the shields you're going to be receiving is going to be even a little bit more, and obviously gives a way to pump some AP into this unit without sacrificing your Arbiter, which you're then able to invest into the defensive form of stacking max HP. 3 mana regen actually could go quite hard onto this Diana, allowing her to just simply continue spam casting. We do not exactly need gold anymore since we have hit him. We could picked that booster pack, and while the road would be appealing option, he just opts to go for a cloak. The Kraken is also not that bad of an item onto this MF. Provides a little bit of attack speed and generally is functioning as an extra AD item. So let's see if you're going to be opting to go for that slam. Yes, we are. Immediately can complete our items, wanting to be as strong as possible as we can right now. Leveling for that 6 Vanguard Spike with the Blitzcrank and still have that 3 Arbiter in. So we're still going to be scaling our HP quite well against this Primordial reroll right now that has already made it believe the Storm Kench too. So let's see. This Diana, we can see the shields are just simply popping through the extra mana region. She's able to sustain the incoming damage and clear up the board, performing quite well. Very nice to see this comp being pulled out from this kind of a spot, something that you would not have perhaps expected right away. Now, we have managed to acquire a comfortable HP lead to hopefully be secure against the Bomba Gragas right here. That has managed to find at least a single Yi, but not on the Pantheon. Has to roll down. We just have so much HP and shields in our team that this Bomba is not able to land on ourselves or nuke ourselves. That's why again and again the extra HP is so nice for ourselves. Picking up a QSSS here, I believe it's going to be. I believe that fits in quite nicely if you wanted to go for that. Did not want to waste too much rolls on our gods, and I'm not exactly sure what item we might have been fishing for. Otherwise, I think this is a decent slam. Completes a 3rd item, get that extra gold influx right there, and hopefully it's going to enable us to keep pushing levels so we can slot in something like maybe a Karma. Lucky item chest, and we are able to... So we are going to be going with only a BT right here. Find the TG for our Blitzcrank. The care package coming in a little bit clutch right there on the reforges as well. But he seems that he believes that he wants this Diana to simply be even more tankier. Does not work out exactly against this. Right, so this would be another reason why we probably moved into MF. We saw that there's an Aurora player. Obviously you're going to be doing that. So that's nice to note. If you see something like an Urgot player in the lobby, you have still an option to be going for this comp. The double ways you can play this are quite neat. Still, sadly, haven't hit that Leona 3, but still just thinking about this BT build. So perhaps he simply believes that extra durability is quite nice. Do not exactly need that much of attack speed. And right now our board is lacking a little bit in the frontline department, right? We're still on this Leona 2 right there. And having that edge in terms of survivability, we only also now find a Nunu. Going to be rolling, slotting in 3 Challenger. I do not think that's that valuable, so yeah, we're slipping immediately to the Lissandra right there, get that Darkstar buff, and I believe gives us a potential to be playing into the Shepherd if we are able to find a single Sona. The reason why being obviously 3 Challenger is not that strong, simply cover the trait. The attack speed gain you gain is just so low. The breakpoint is not quite strong, and generally having only 2 Challenger is quite sufficient. Now we can be looking to, yes, tossing a mana item on this Nunu is going to be quite neat. Hopefully get that stun a little bit out faster, and well, with Nunu 1 you're hoping that he's going to be casting at all. Still, this Leona is so much in terms of HP scaling that she's still able to, like, you can just see her HP bar. She's pretty much become at least a 3-cost 2-star by now. And if you're able to hit her, she's going to be an absolute menace that you know her from other comps such as Teemo Reroll. Picking up a win here, and we are locking in our top 4 right now. And with this HP lead, we should be guaranteed at least a 3rd, I believe. With double or Enzo dropping out. Playing a little bit of mind games by trying to swap our positioning. Obviously we know we're going to end up on the hexes. Sometimes it's worthwhile to be dropping a little bit of the hex value if that's going to swing the fight quite sufficiently, especially giving up on the 1 round of stacking HP. when you have that gain HP hex. Just to simply position your tank in front of something like the Master Yi clump is obviously worthwhile, especially in these later stages of the game. Have managed to also attack in Bard. I'm not exactly sure how an Elder Dragon would fit this board, but perhaps he has an idea. I am having hard time envisioning that. Still rolling down here, holding on. He has the Kindred in his planner, but gives up on it immediately. So I'm unsure. Find that zone, so we're able to get a little even more AP through this Baya right there, casting and going up finally on this follow frontline positioning as we're still on Leona 2 only. Even with Leona 3, sometimes you just simply do it. This generally makes you a little bit more protected, and particularly against comps like a Corki that can burst your solo frontliners and then expose your melee carry, it's worthwhile to just transition into this kind of a positioning. Picking up a Blitz too, and transitioning some of the tank items. This is another thing, and we saw that our TG was more of an offensive one, wanting to secure a top 2 here, being as strong as possible against Enzo as we can. Going onto the side position, so he's looking to clear up some of the weaker units. Do not want to get stuck on this Rammus, especially as he has a D-Claw right there. Eliminating the weak units is always a worthwhile thing to do. First, preserves HP in case you lose. Second, lots of units value is in the cast, so if you're able to get them down before they cast, you're simply negating a lot of power. Finally, that Leona 3 comes in. We believe we get an extra item mod for our Blitzcrank right there. So let's see how we perform against, I believe his player's name is Guilosko. Could be a Polish player, but this is the no scout, no pivot Veigar, so we can see a little bit of an off top tier meta kind of game, but has made it to that Elder Dragon, so extremely scary right there. We positioned our Leona in front and kept our carries on the same side to go for a focus fire, but simply they just have so much power in there that Veigar 3 also being an absolute menace in the meta. Fisher finally, oh yes, we were missing our shred, so we were able to pick that up through our item anvil. I believe that's what where we're using our last item anvils for. Again, going for this last second, so sort of last second swap, in hopes that this Blitzcrank is able to knock the Poppy out, and this Leona is hopefully unable to stall long enough, and we're able to break through their weak side. But this is going to happen if you only have one of your carry at the moment. Your secondary carry is a 2-star MF, and that's not going to simply be sufficient. We do not have the DPS requirement to burst through this board. But still very nicely, amazingly recognized spot that we could be playing for. This is going to be uncontested, and from our trying to pick the econ augments, and one of them finally hit for us. Recognize that we can push tempo from this spot, make to our high cap state, and while we didn't have the exact items for our duo carry or the strongest of the duo carry, still perform very strongly against the top tier comps due to this built-in scaling from the arbiter we chose in permanent HP. I would like to thank you for watching. As usual, the cheat sheet and my meta sheet are available in the link down below where you can find all my cheat sheets, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.